for whatever reason, decide not to run in 2020, which is something that could happen, are you saying Vice President Pence would not step up and try to take that role?
Well, I don't talk about hypotheticals. All I know is that every day
you do talk about hypotheticals. We talk about hypotheticals all the time. So I'm just saying, are you ruling out that possibility?
What I'm talking about is that we are all operating under the assumption every day that the president is seeking re-election in 2020. That is our goal. That's our focus on delivering his agenda and making sure that we are in a position where the president can be re-elected and continue to lead this country.
It's no secret that even among the president's supporters, it's not a take-it-to-the-bank fact that Donald Trump will run for re-election. For one thing, there's no way to know how the Russia investigation will turn out. There's also the fact that Donald Trump has himself remarked on multiple occasions that he had a very good life before he was president. That may be what fueled speculation over the weekend about his vice president, Mike Pence, making a run for the White House if Donald Trump chooses not to. The New York Times piece also chronicled travel to early battleground states by Tom Cotton and Ben Sasse. I want to bring into the conversation Doug Holtz-Eakin, president of the American Action Forum and former director of the CBO. Doug, let me start with you. Would Republicans on Capitol Hill, where you've spent a lot of time, prefer a President Pence?
I don't think they'd say it that way, but I think they'd prefer a president who operates in a style that's closer to what we associate with Mike Pence. I think they've been frustrated by the White House. They haven't got a lot of legislative accomplishments to show for it, and I think some of the blame belongs down Pennsylvania Avenue in the way the president has conducted things on Twitter and changed strategies and changed objectives from a day-to-day basis.
Jonathan, Doug speaks more diplomatically than I do. I think the truth is, hell yes. A lot of Republicans would much rather be doing business with Mike Pence. But I think there are two categories of people that are looking at 2020. And I saw Tom Cotton's name in that piece. I think that Mike Pence and Tom Cotton are unfailingly loyal to Donald Trump. And they're more in the category of people who might run should Donald Trump choose not to. But then I think there's this interesting dynamic. Jeff Flake's out on a book tour. I think we have some sound. He's making an anti-Trump and an anti-Trumpism case. Let's watch a little Jeff Flake.
I do think that we've seen more people ready to stand up, and I wish that we as a party would have stood up. For example, when the birtherism thing was going along, a lot of people did stand up, but not enough.
Did you do enough?
That was particularly ugly.
I'm just curious. Do you?
On that, I think I did.
Yeah.
But on other things as well. I mean, when our party, I wonder, during rallies when the chants "lock her up." We shouldn't be the party for jailing your political opponents. And anybody at that rally, anybody at those rallies ought to stand up and say, that's inappropriate. We shouldn't be doing that. And I wish we as a party and elected officials would do more of that. Or when particularly ugly conspiracy theories go out or simply fake news, stuff that is just demonstrably false, we ought to stand up and say, hey, that's just not right.
I cannot articulate how I guess relief is the best way to describe how I feel listening to that. And I wonder if Jeff Flake has opened the door for more Republicans to talk about how a lot of people who aren't governing in the time of Trump feel about what President Trump has done to the Republican Party.
That's right. There's certainly a degree of never-Trumpers who are there. John Kasich's another one who has come out repeatedly against the president, not just against his policies, but about how he has carried himself, believing he has not held the office to the highest of standards. Between that, and we are seeing with Vice President Pence, who, of course, no one expects to make a primary run at the president, or the president to run again.
Right.
But there certainly are possibilities. This could be a wide-open field in 2020. Having said that, it is striking to me how quickly the vice president and his people have come attacking that New York Times story, saying there's nothing to this, even releasing a statement that night.
I've got that.
The phrase audience of one? This
exactly.
Is that. Yeah.
Donna, let me read you the statement. So he said, today's article in the New York Times is disgraceful and offensive to me, my family, and our entire team. The allegations in this article are categorically false and represent the latest attempt by the media to divide this administration. Well, okay, but on the other hand, you do have a PAC, and you know a little bit about, I mean, a PAC is used to raise money for campaigns. His case was that it was for others' campaigns, but it wasn't a conspiracy theory made up by the media. I mean, he's done things that certainly look like he's protecting his prerogative to run.
Well, and over the last several weeks and months, I mean, you see the vice president on a number of occasions, whether he's traveling abroad or around the country, really keeping an arm's length with the president. And I have to tell you this, I think if I were Mike Pence with that kind of statement, you know, I'd get out of the way of the bus.
I got to be honest. As much as I would love this Machiavellian imagery of Mike Pence measuring the curtains in the White House and getting caught when Trump, I didn't know why I was here. Look, as much as we would like to believe that.
Thought you were gone.
I know. It's like,
Thought you were in Edmonton.
yeah, it's like, we thought you were on vacation. Most of these guys have demonstrated themselves to be absolutely spineless when it comes to this president. And I think these moves now, I think they're less about actually preparing for 2020 and possibly, certainly when it comes to Flake and some of these other members of Congress, preparing themselves to say, I'm somewhat independent during these midterm elections in 2018. 2020 is far off. The likelihood that this president's going to be gone is very slim.
Doug?
Nicole, I think there really are two different things going on here. One is, with regard to the president, you cannot run a guerrilla campaign for re-election. I mean, he ran a guerrilla campaign, he got elected, but that's over. And so, you know, the best example of that is John McCain. Once he became a member of the establishment, it was a very uncomfortable fit. And so, you know, he can't do that again. He's going to have to run with accomplishments. There's a real fear that he won't have them, and the Pence wing is getting ready to step in should he just bow out because he can't manage a re-elect. Then there's the battle for the soul of the Republican Party.
Doug, what do you think I mean, that you lay out a really dispassionate case for that. If there are no accomplishments and he's not up for it, he might just bow out. Are you hearing that?
I think that's a real possibility. I mean, his style of campaign is to just, you know, blame the swamp, blame people. He will have only himself to blame in 4 years. So,
but Doug,
you know, that's not going to fit very well. And so I think the Pence, Cotton kinds of things are, okay, we could find ourselves in a position where we have to pick up the mantle and go forward. So they're there. But I think Jeff Flake and I think you know, Governor Kasich, that's a battle for the soul of the Republican Party. And that battle existed in 2016. It existed in 2018. It's going to be there. And that's an ongoing battle for what will conservatives stand for and will they control the Republican Party the way they want to.
Yeah, it's either, this is the issue. What we're talking about here is what drives American crazy. We are not a society that is all about just electing. We have to be about governing. Right. And this is the battle that really is the important one. And I think we underestimate sometimes conservatives who really believe in conservative principles, conservative legislation, who look at the disaster that happened with health care, something they have promised to repeal and replace, not just because it was an Obama initiative, but because they believe in free market principles, because they believe in more competition, because they believe in more choice. These are not insignificant, and they see that very core of Republican ideals, true conservative. We're looking at tax reform, the debt ceiling, the budget, things that now with the Senate, the House, and the White House, they thought they finally had a legitimate, credible shot at putting in their principles, their sort of rolling back entitlement, their vision of what American society should be at. That breeds deep in many Republicans as well.
And that's a great point, because the first people that peeled off really were the policy folks that really were animated by the free market policies. Doug's nodding his head. See, we've got some consensus around the table every day at 4. It makes me feel better for a minute. Doug Holtz-Eakin, thank you. Please come back early and often.